welcome back to Will You Be My Friend? This is a little bit different than what we normally do. Will You Be My Friend is a podcast that me and my best friend Jasmine Rose started when And Just Like That came out, because we're both really big Sex and the City fans. Unfortunately, this week you have Kylie Garcia, myself.
Unfortunately.
And no Jasmine Rose.
Great way to put that.
I meant, unfortunately, Jasmine is sick. And she's been taking a while to get better. And so we want to give her time and to feel better and feel good when she comes back and have the energy and everything. So this week, we have a special, that's not what I mean. We have a special guest who's my husband, Julio Garcia. And he has been watching, because he loves me so much, he's been watching And Just Like That with me every week. So we're going to go through episode 7 together, and we're going to get a different type of opinion from Julio. Unfortunately. That's not what I meant. I meant, unfortunately, she's sick. And fortunately, because of that situation, we get to have this conversation in front of all of you who are watching. Typical. So, welcome. This is my husband, Julio, and I'm Kylie Garcia, and welcome to Will You Be My Friend, a podcast where two best friends review And Just Like That, or a husband and a wife in the case of this episode. So, what are you drinking, honey? Normally we talk about what we're drinking, but we're both drinking water because it's kind of late at night and we're just thirsty and ready to record. So we're having really fancy water. We will jump into the synopsis of the episode.
Sure.
Episode 7, Sex and the Widow. Carrie's publisher tasks her with injecting some hope into her new book. Miranda attempts to rekindle a spark with Steve. And Charlotte bristles when Harry imposes on her sacred space, tennis. So we start off with the writing montage. We've got Carrie through the window of her apartment, and you can see the seasons changing. And she's writing, and you can have a few moments where you see her kind of having emotions as she's writing, and the seasons continue to change. So we're just kind of seeing that she's been writing, and the seasons are changing. I don't really have much to say about that except for that. Then we go into the publisher meeting, where her publisher asks for a little bit of hope and is basically requesting that Carrie go on her first date since Mr. Big died. Did you have thoughts on that, honey?
Yeah, stupid.
Why? Why?
She just lost her husband. You're forcing her hand to go out on a date for... You're labeling it hope? It's not hope. It's stupid.
So how soon after you die can I go on a date?
I'm not dying, so you don't need to worry about that.
You're not dying? I thought you said I'm not buying.
I don't care if she wants to go on a date, but it wasn't her idea. Like, it's different if Carrie wants to go on a date because she feels lonely or is ready or just wants to even just have a fling. But this wasn't Carrie's idea. This was the publisher trying to make money and framing it as hope. Like, this is not a fiction story. This is a story about Carrie and her life. Like, if you want hope, like, maybe wait a little bit or something, but it's just stupid.
Like, let her be where she is, as your opinion.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I just felt bad for her because I don't know what it's like to lose a husband, but I'm sure it's very difficult. And I just felt like you could tell she was clearly uncomfortable. And I think Carrie, we've seen her through the series kind of do this thing where, like, she gets pushed into something that she's not really into, and she sort of is just, like, really nice about it, and she's like, oh, eh, and gets uncomfortable. So, yeah, I felt for her. I get, like, the point from, like, the book writer standpoint, I suppose. Like, I get the idea of, like, oh, we want to see, like, something where you're growing at the end, or something where you're going into a different stage, or so it's not just this really sad book. But at the same time, like, maybe we need to have space to honor when something's really sad and just allow it to be what it is. So anyways,
the only avenue she gives Carrie for hope is to go out on a date. Like, there's no hey, the ending of this book really is dark. Like, is there a way we can kind of lighten this and give hope? There's no conversation. It's just, hey, you should go bang, bang, bangity bang.
Wait, so you're saying maybe she could have found another way to have hope, like by just changing the way it was written at the end of the book or something?
I'm saying that conversation never happened. I don't know. I'm not a writer, but I'm sure that there's more than just one option, one answer,
or like
one avenue to
what
pursue.
She's thinking for the future or something.
Instead of being awkwardly forced into something that she clearly was not ready for.
I respect that, honey.
Yeah, I'm always right.
You're just really coming in strong.
Not like
the
all
guest
these...
spot. So then, if we're ready to move on, are we ready to move on?
Well.
So then, yep. So then we move on to tennis with Charlotte and LTW. And Charlotte's coming into the room apologizing for a bunch of things. Like, I'm sorry this, I'm sorry that, I didn't realize this. And they're both kind of I'm sorrying each other about some stuff around, like, the school fundraiser or whatever. And then they go into their space of playing tennis. And there's this whole montage. What is it? Is it Eye of the Tiger that they play?
Maybe. I don't remember. That is how Eye of the Tiger goes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it is Eye of the Tiger. Well, I figure you would know. Because you're a Rocky fan.
I do love Rocky.
So...
I should stop this and go watch Rocky.
There's a whole... I'm just going to go right over that. There's a whole montage of this tennis game. My only question, honestly, it was cheesy. It was, I think, meant to be a little bit cheesy, whatever. Maybe to show, like, she's had a little bond with LTW now. But my only question at the end of this is that, do people really high five with their rackets?
I don't play tennis. You're asking me for.
I mean, have you ever seen anyone high five in a doubles game using their rackets?
I mean, I don't know if real tennis players do that, but I've done it with ping pong. I've done it at racquetball, but I'm not a real tennis or racquetball player.
Okay, so it wasn't as weird as I thought it was. It felt weird to me. It felt like this forced thing, like...
Well, there's a cool way to do a high five and a bad way to do a high five, and they just badly high five with
rackets. Okay, let's demonstrate.
Like,
what's the cool way to do a high five?
No, I'm not doing that.
What's a cool way to do a high five?
You gotta earn a cool high five. You have to earn it. You haven't earned it.
Baby, I earned it. We've been married for 10 years, almost 11.
I'll give you 2.
That's an uncool high five. Okay, now about the cool one. Otherwise, I didn't really care that much about the scene, to be honest. I just thought it was a little cheesy.
When they played the old ladies?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't really care that much about that scene. So, I guess it was just kind of a setup scene. Like, they're playing tennis. That's a place that they go and the thing that they do.
I think it's meant to kind of have a sight of Charlotte playing tennis with Harry and without Harry. It's like a contrast.
Don't skip ahead.
It's all one episode. It's all one episode.
I'm just kidding. I think you're right. I'm just going to give you a hard time. Okay, so then from the first tennis scene, then we go to the farmer's market.
Sure, why not?
Miranda is shopping for produce. And she's on the phone trying to help Steve find where she is at the farmer's market. She's a little bit frustrated. And she runs into her professor and her professor's husband, and they're clearly very, like, lovey-dovey in love. And then Steve pops up, and he's like a total goof and a half. And he's just, like, lost and goofy and realizes he forgot his wallet somewhere. He doesn't know where anything is. And there, to me, that's a contrast between the professor and the professor's husband's, like, in love type relationship, and then Miranda and their kind of strained relationship of, like, we're dealing with each other.
Just go on.
Just go on.
I don't have time for Miranda.
Don't be angry at Miranda.
She's stupid.
We like Miranda here.
No, we don't.
Well, you aren't part of this. You're just a guest. Miranda's like everybody's favorite.
No, she's terrible.
Tell me about it, honey. You have your opinion.
I don't know. Just keep going.
Don't be afraid to share.
Just go.
I'll
What's
listen.
next?
You have to. This is like improv. You have to say yes and. You can't just shut things down.
Yes, and move on.
Then we have Carrie going to her book meeting to look at the cover of the book, and she finds out, she's thinking maybe she wrote the book just for herself to get over things, and then she finds out that her publisher has already like shopped it around to like Oprah's book club, and they're interested as long as she does the epilogue that they talked about with the date and the hope and all of that. So then that's kind of a short scene. And then we go into lunch with Seema, Miranda, Carrie, and Charlotte. And Carrie's basically sharing that news and that she's going to need to go out on a date to do this writing assignment. And everybody's, like Charlotte especially, is very excited. Carrie's like, I didn't really want to go on a date. I just am trying to do this for my book. And then Seema says that she had signed her up for like a Tinder or something a while ago. And they start looking through people. Has anyone you know ever signed you up for a dating site without your knowledge?
No.
Okay.
We were
Not
married
that
before
I know of
it
either.
really came out.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, what was there before we were married? Like eHarmony? Match.com?
maybe.
It was definitely not as common of a thing like 15 years ago. Then we go to Miranda and Carrie. So they're walking down the street and they're talking about, Carrie's talking about if she was gonna think about sleeping with somebody else and how weird that feels and how it doesn't seem right. She's not interested in sleeping with someone that's not big. And her kind of like wild Mr. Big.
That's what she said.
Her kind of like wild dating history and how she's sort of over that part of her life. And she thinks the idea of sleeping with someone that's not Mr. Big, John James Preston, is kind of weird. And she's not really open to that. She's not really wanting to do that. And then she starts asking Miranda about her and Steve and if things have improved because she hadn't heard anything about it. And Miranda says, no news is no news. Nothing's improved, basically. And she feels like she's riding the monorail instead of a roller coaster. Thoughts on that scene?
Nope.
Well,
it's all part, like, we're going to get to
how
talking
soon would
about...
you sleep with somebody after I died?
That's a terrible question. That's not a question that any rational person can actually answer. Like, you can ask somebody how long was it till you slept with somebody after, like if they've been in that situation, but you can't ask somebody to project what you're going to feel in that situation because nobody's going to know.
I mean, is there a ballpark that feels like a normal amount of time, or is it just going to be based on your feelings and that's it? I think there's definitely a too soon.
I think it's all circumstantial. I think that it depends on the person. I think it depends on the relationship. I think it depends on the circumstances of death.
Look, if you sleep with somebody the night that I die, I will haunt you. That's a promise.
Maybe that's too soon. Yeah.
But like, do you need to wait a year? It's just a question. There probably isn't a good answer. There isn't like a solid answer for everybody, for sure. But it's just an exploratory question. Like, or what
Why
is
explore a question that has no answer? It makes no sense.
Well, where do you get like what place do you get to where you feel like it's okay? I don't know. I have no idea like how it feels to lose somebody. Like, if I were to lose you or you were to lose me, like we don't know what that feels like because our relationship is different than any other loss we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, and if it's death, right? Like it's a final thing. It's, it's not something you really have a choice over. I just wonder like, what switches in your mind where you're like, okay, I guess it's time to move on? And I don't know that anyone knows the answer. I'm just exploring.
Again, I think it's different. I think it depends on how old you are when you lose your significant other, right? If you're 25, that's very different than if you're 65, I would imagine.
And what your goals are in life, like if you wanted to have kids or something.
Sure, that's probably part of it, but it could also just be like, don't people generally have less sex when they're in their 60s?
I hope not.
I hope so. It sounds gross.
You want to go get that little Miranda?
It is gross.
We're moving on. It was just thought-provoking moment, okay?
Well, I hope your thoughts are provoked.
They are provoked. Okay, so we go to Harry and Charlotte having conversation. Harry's making a midnight snack type thing, and he says he ran into LTW's husband, Herbert Wexley, I think is his name, on the subway, and they start talking about how their wives have been bonding over tennis, and basically Harry starts inviting himself to play tennis with them, and Charlotte's like, okay, you want to come play tennis? So that we have that set up. And then we go to Naya and her husband in the car on their way to go get some food, and they get a message from Miranda, and the car starts reading the message, and essentially, so when they met up at the farmer's market and the husband walked away, Miranda and Naya had a private conversation about how Naya had started her period. She was not pregnant once again. She didn't want Miranda to say anything in front of the husband because she hadn't told the husband yet. It had only been that morning that she got her period. And then they're driving, and Miranda sends a text message like, hey, so sorry that you didn't get pregnant. I hope it went well when you talked to your husband. And she hadn't talked to her husband yet. So the car starts reading off the text, which I don't know what cars do that. If you can set up your car to just automatically read text, that seems like a terrible idea. But maybe it's convenient for TV. So that's happening. And then the husband is finding out through the car reading the text, basically. And then Naya almost runs over a gay couple with their toddler in the street because she is not paying attention to the road. Feelings about finding out information like that through your car.
I don't know. I think it's dumb. It's not, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's also not like blow the roof off the house type of like problems. Like,
should I quote you on the Instagram? Dumb.
You just make t-shirts. It's dumb.
It's dumb. Okay, it's dumb. I'm sorry, I'm listening to your thoughts.
That's it. There's no more thoughts.
So, not ideal. I mean, if you
I don't think he blew it up either. I don't think he didn't make it a huge deal. Not like Harry.
We'll get there.
But I just think that's one of those things like, I don't know. It's hard to put yourself in that situation, right? Because they've been doing this multiple times, it sounds like, if I remember right. Like trying to get pregnant and not getting pregnant.
They've been doing IVF and they stopped doing IVF too.
So it could be like, I don't know, maybe it's different. Maybe he's sensitive about it, right? Maybe it's like, it's a me thing or it's a her thing. Like maybe you're just more private about it because that's a kind of an intimate detail of your relationship, a struggle, something that you guys have been dealing with like for a while. So yeah, maybe you just don't want that out there, or you want it to be. You want to feel like you're in it together, and maybe at that point he didn't feel like that. But I don't think that's something. I mean, I'm not in the relationship.
I mean, would you be mad if I knew since the morning and it was the afternoon and you didn't know and you found out that way? Or do you just feel like, oh, shouldn't have a chance to tell me yet? Or shouldn't find the right time to tell me?
I'd be a little upset. I can see where he would be upset, where, at least from my understanding, Miranda and the other lady are not, like, close friends. Like, it'd be different if I found out you told Jazz, as opposed to I found out you told the neighbor. And then to say that she didn't have, like, time to do it, right? Like, they were out on a date the whole time. Like, they were together. I think you can make that sort of connection that, hey, you had time together, like, and you still weren't able to do it.
They were at the farmer's market that morning.
Like, I would feel like that, hey, I should get first dibs, so to speak, on this information. Like, this is us against the world type of deal.
Okay. Well, and there is kind of a bit of a conversation that's not super clear that's going on that sounds like she might not want to even keep trying. I don't know if you've caught that in the last few episodes. But it sounds like I don't know if she's like 100% sure she even wants a kid.
Well, I think that like to kind of finish the thought, I think if I'm him, once I kind of get over that initial like shock, then hopefully the idea will come into my mind like, well, why didn't she share that information with me? Like, is there some reason that she's like, right? If something's hard to share, sometimes you don't come out and share it right away. Like, is there a way I can love and support her? But I don't know. Something like that, right? Instead of just focusing on what I wanted.
Yeah. I think that's where the hesitancy comes from for her, is what it sounds like. Is like, I think she's kind of like, I want to pump the brakes entirely. And I think that she knows that he's been wanting this. And so it maybe from his perspective, it's like, oh, it's just something that we want that's been difficult. But from her perspective, she's not even sure what she wants. And she's kind of like realizing that in the process.
Yeah, in either case, I mean, I feel like that's, I don't know, it's hard. I get that there's points where you want to get like outsider input and it helps you kind of sort your thoughts and everything. Because there's less like at stake when you're talking to friends or people on the outside. But ultimately, that's a conversation you need to have in your relationship. That's a conversation you'd be like, because she's going to experience this not having or do I want like thing differently than he does. He's just be like, well, let's do it again. And
just keep going, yeah.
Like she's going to, who knows, like physically, emotionally, it's going to be processed differently for her.
Well, if she doesn't say anything, it seems like you said, like it's just going to the plan is going to go ahead unless she stops the plan. So it really is kind of like the ball's in her court, right?
I mean, I think that it's normal to think about how you feel and the impact of things on you or what to do next. But I think he could always be kind of aware too and asking his wife, like, hey, how are you? How is this affecting you? Like, what are we thinking? And maybe he does and maybe they don't. I don't know. But they just don't show that stuff. But
yeah, that's true. Like if you're really connected to somebody, you kind of can tell if they're feeling off about something usually. Is that what you're kind of saying? Like,
no, I'm saying even if you can't tell, like that's good practice to ask those things.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, people just don't always share everything.
I feel like you can tell when I'm funky most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, why are you funky? Oh, and then there's just the whole bit of like, we have a toddler! The guy like banging on the window.
That's absurd.
I thought that was funny. It was very relatable. I just felt like I could see that situation. And it doesn't have to be a gay couple. It could be anyone with a child just freaking out. I just feel like everyone thinks their kid is God's gift to everything. And if you put their kid in danger, then you're the devil.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, something about the like the juxtaposition between the like serious moment and this guy just banging on the window like, we have a toddler, was kind of funny to me. So the next scene is just a quick scene of Carrie on her bed going through the Tinder profiles, and she picks Peter. She puts like a like, and she's super like satisfied with herself that she picked one. And then we go back to tennis with Harry and Herbert Hubert, whatever his name is, and LTW and Charlotte playing tennis. What were your thoughts on this scene? You remember what happened?
Yeah, they lost. They suck. They should have lost the old ladies too.
No, Charlotte and Harry won.
Oh yeah, that's right. It doesn't really matter. They're terrible.
Were you even paying attention?
No.
Oh, well, I farted. Well, we're out. They were playing tennis. Harry starts coaching at Charlotte to, like, go for it more. Like, come on, or whatever. And then she does. She dives for, like, I don't know, the match point or whatever. She dives over and ends up knocking over Harry on accident, saving the ball, and then they win the game. and Harry's on the ground. And it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And she's kind of like, are you okay? And they, like, get up, and then they're walking out of what looks like a really amazing equinox. I don't know. The way that it looks like it must be a fancy equinox or something. But they're walking out of the gym, and Harry starts asking if Charlotte will apologize to him for knocking him over. And she's like, this is ridiculous. No, we're playing tennis. And he's like, well, it's ridiculous that you won't apologize. And they have a whole kind of like petty argument about this.
Oh, that's how you feel.
I think it was petty. I think on both sides it was petty. Like, who cares? Charlotte, say sorry that you knocked him over. Harry, don't be a baby. You were playing tennis. You fell over. Like, I just don't even get why it's a big argument. It's like a stupid, one of those dumb...
Now you're catching on. Stupid, dumb. Yes.
No,
now you're getting
it's one of those dumb, stupid marital arguments. Like when we were first married and we had the argument over which peanut butter that you liked and didn't like.
That's not a dumb argument. Don't buy shit peanut butter.
Wait.
Can you say shit on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't remember?
Shitty shit.
You don't remember?
That you got the wrong one, even though I told you which one to get? Yes.
Wait a minute. Wait, with an H. This is the story. Example of a petty marital argument. We were married for like less than a year, and I had been going to a couple of different stores, figuring out what grocery store I liked, and I picked up this specific peanut butter. And he had said he didn't like this certain kind. And it had like a blue label, let's say. And it was like a store bought from one grocery store. Okay, the next time I go to the store, I go to a different store, I get the white label peanut butter. It's also crunchy peanut butter or whatever. I bring it home. And he opens up the cabinet and he goes, why'd you buy this peanut butter? I told you last time I didn't like this peanut butter. And I went, I don't know what you're talking about. This is a totally new peanut butter. And he's like, no, it's not. It's the one I told you last time I didn't like. And I was like, no, the one that you didn't like had the blue label. This is a white label from the other store. So then we get through a whole conversation that becomes an argument. And I am in tears because I know that I'm right. And he has not even tried this peanut butter. And he's not trusting me that he's thinking I didn't listen to when he said he didn't like the other peanut butter. And that's what hurt me, was that I thought you thought I didn't listen to your peanut butter needs. And you just assumed that I went and got a peanut butter that was the one you said that you didn't like. Because you were not even as invested as I was. Again, stupid and dumb, right? But we had a whole argument about it.
Uh-huh.
Because it was a misunderstanding, really.
Yeah,
and
that has nothing to do with what you're talking about.
No, it was a petty argument. That's exact. Let's have a petty argument right now.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I don't do petty arguments.
Anyways, it was a petty argument. So we move on. This is what happened. Oh, and LTW and her husband see them yelling in the street at each other. So there's like a moment where Charlotte's like, great, now they think we're that couple.
Let's just be real. He's wrong. Like,
Harry?
he felt, yeah. It's wrong to request an apology in the middle of the game. It's not like she made a non-tennis play. Like,
it's not like she like elbowed him in the balls.
Yeah, it wasn't like a cheap shot. She didn't like go way out of the way. It was a ball that was there. And to be honest, I don't know much about tennis, but if I have a player moving up with the forehand versus a guy coming across to hit a backhand, you take the person with the forehand.
And I don't know what any of this means. Zero idea what any of this means. But okay.
So he got in the way, and she's the one, like, from what I remember, I don't remember it all that well. It was a ball that was kind of in the middle of both of them, and so you let, like, she was in the right to get it. Now she's being petty, and the fact that she like, I don't know if it's petty, but I feel like she could articulate her stance better and maybe offer, like, some sort of an apology. Like, I'm sorry I knocked you over. I don't know. I don't know if I would apologize either. Like, why should I apologize? We were playing the game. Like, that's part of the game. You just need to get over it. But he's real.
Wait a minute. This is a whole different conversation. Does this have to do with the fact that men... Because I think we go here later. Men don't feel like they have to apologize for everything all the time. I don't feel like. In most cases, like in life, just going through life. I think the point they're trying to make is that women are trained to apologize for just, like, existing. Like, I'm sorry that I have to ask you a question. Or I'm sorry that my opinion is different than you. Or I'm sorry that I'm having a feeling. Like, that is what it's like to be a woman. So I think the point that Charlotte's getting so triggered by is that she has to apologize all the time. Why is she apologizing in tennis when she's just doing what was required to win the tennis game? So you're saying, like, well, I wouldn't apologize because I was playing tennis. So is it the fact that you're just, like, not in that world where you feel like you need to apologize for unnecessary things all the time? Or is it just that has nothing to do with it for you?
I don't know, I've never been a woman. But I don't feel like that has anything to do with it. I feel like ultimately if I were in Charlotte's spot and you were completely... This happens a lot. Like, especially in something like that where if you're out of... It feels like Harry's out of his element in this. I can't remember what he said if he used to play or whatnot. Whatever, he's terrible. But, like, we've done things where, like, it's either moving or, like, doing some sort of, like, construction project. Something that's just not necessarily in your wheelhouse. And you've gotten hurt or gotten in the way. And, like, I've had to, like tell you what to do, like, sternly or something. Like, that's part of that environment. Like, that's how that works. It's not meant to be unloving necessarily, but so, like, in tennis, you have to understand, like, this is a game. Like, this is competition. Sometimes you fall. Sometimes the ball hits you on the face. Like, you shouldn't have to apologize for a tennis action. Like,
so you're saying, like if more extreme examples, like football. Like, in football, you're supposed to, like, hit people. So it would be stupid for everyone to, like, apologize every time they hit somebody. I'm trying to understand the sports world.
I don't know. I mean, if you're playing basketball or something and you're dribbling and someone smacks your hand when you go shoot, like, that's part of the game. Like, it just happens. You have to take the lumps with it. Like, nothing is perfect. Like, understand that going in, and you shouldn't have to apologize. You shouldn't have to apologize if I fouled you. Like, that's ridiculous and absurd.
I actually really love the idea of this right now. Like,
but at the same time...
Sorry. Sorry every time you're doing anything.
But at the same time, like, in our relationship, like, when those things have happened, after a while has gone by, I'll find a way to kind of apologize without apologizing.
Like if you strip the ball in football. Sorry!
You're a terrible athlete.
Tell me about what you were saying. Tell me the words.
I don't know. I mean, I would apologize probably for, hey, look, like, you need to probably try to get you to understand, like, look, this is how the game is played. This things sort of happen. I'm sorry you fell, but, you know, next time we just won't play together. That's fine. Like,
but you're an idiot.
I mean, it's the same thing when I sit down with, like, the kids to play, like, a game. I tell them, I'm like, I'll play with you, but you can't cry when you lose. Like, that's the rule. Don't cry because you're not going to beat me. Like, just how it is.
I've witnessed this.
Don't be an idiot.
Well, don't be an idiot. Another
Life
quote
is
for a teacher.
Simple. People are stupid.
A lot of dumb, stupid stuff going on there. Okay, so we leave the tennis scene, and we've got Miranda and Steve in the kitchen, and they look to be finishing their takeout meal, and they're just having a regular logistical married life night. Steve's like getting a message from somebody at work that called in sick again or something. And Miranda gets the wild hair and she's like, let's do this. Let's like rekindle. Oh, because she hasn't heard back anything from Che. And that was part of the conversation when she walked and talked with Carrie too, was what is the expiration date of an unanswered DM or text? And so they have this sort of conversation, and then Miranda's like, hey, maybe I just need to get, like, that was it. That was the best sex of my life, but now it's over. It's not happening again. So maybe I just need to accept my life as it is kind of where she ends up with that. So then we end up with her in the kitchen with Steve, trying to get him to have sex with her in the kitchen, which we already know from episodes back, it's been literal years since they've had sex. And they have this awkward attempt at having sex. And in my opinion, well, do you want to share your opinion first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. In my opinion, I understand Miranda's frustration. I understand that she's trying on some level. She does try. Like, she could just do what they've been doing and not ask for anything and not try. And I think it takes a lot to actually, like, for me, it can be embarrassing if you have to, like, say out loud, like, I want you to do this thing to me right now. Like, you kind of want to be in a relationship where the person just wants you and you want them, and you both just kind of, like, do the thing without being like, I want you to do this thing, and having it be awkward, right? So I think, like, there's bravery in the fact that she's like, hey, I want you to touch me. I want you to do this with me. To me, like, when I watched it, I felt like she gave up really easily. And I think no matter what age you are as a woman, it takes a while to warm up sometimes. And I think that she did not give herself enough time to, like, warm up and to be with him. But I also think part of that comes with, she really, I don't know that she went into that whole interaction and conversation wanting it to work. I think it was almost like, all right, fine, I'll try. And then she kind of easily gave up and got frustrated and sort of wrote him off and was just like, well, you're not who I want anymore. I think it, like, solidified for her that she didn't want to even try anymore. And for him, he was like, great, Miranda. We're trying to have sex. I sound like I'm from the Midwest. And
what makes you think that she tries?
The fact that she asks for it. And the
she
fact
asked for it once in this episode. Like, where are you basing the rest of that on?
Well, a lot of women don't want to be in a situation where they feel like they have to ask.
I get that, but you said that she tries, and I'm saying you have one instance where she half-ass tried. Where are you saying you're getting the evidence for the other stuff? Maybe I'm not remembering.
What do you mean?
She, like, tells Steve in this one instance what she wants. But you're saying she tries as in, like, she's been continually trying. And I don't know where you actually see that.
I don't know that I mean that. I just meant this is her trying. Like, this one instance is her on some level trying to see what's there, because it seems like they have been kind of dormant for a while. I know that they kind of talk at some point in the other episodes about them going through, like, a couple of rounds of marriage counseling. So maybe that was, like, their period of trying, and then they sort of settled into this kind of, like, blah space that they've been in. But I'm talking about just the one instance of this is them trying. Like, Miranda being like, out of the blue, like, hey, come here, let's
see, I read that completely differently. And I'm not saying she's all at fault, like, for their relationship and the sexual lull that they're having. But I feel like the thing that you're calling her effort, her try, is completely disingenuous. I think that she is sexually frustrated, obviously, but she's trying to recreate this thing that she had with Che the other day. Like, that's what Miranda's doing. And then the fact that, like, they get what
she's using him to get off, basically.
Yes. I don't think she's there, like, trying to do anything other than satisfy, like, her. I don't think it's an attempt to revive the relationship. I think it's a frustrated, like, sexual, like, thing, and combined with her being kind of ghosted, like, she's just trying to fill that void. And she's using Steve. And I think that right when she gets one hiccup, right, which I don't think you can blame Steve, like, she just needs a while to warm up. Like, she shuts it down. She shuts it down. And then Steve comes back and goes, really? Are you sure? Like, because I was kind of like, you kind of had me going there for a minute.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, like, it just doesn't feel like it was an attempt to revive the relationship. It just felt, or to see if there's anything in the relationship. It just felt selfish.
I think what you're saying is pretty pure, like, as far as, like, what's going on. I think that's probably closer to the truth if we really look at it. I think for me, like, I still think there's some level of her after 20 years with this person that she has a child with that's like, maybe there's hope. Like, and maybe if I recreate this thing that turned me on before, maybe I could have that with him. Maybe on some level. But I also kind of think that what you're saying, that a lot of the evidence does support that, you know? So I'm not disagreeing with you. I just wonder if there's any level, because Miranda did love Steve at one point and probably still does in, like, on some level, but maybe she's just like again, like, the relationship's been very dormant. That
sounds like a lot of conjecture. I didn't watch the original series, so I don't know what the relationship was like, but I can tell you from these 6, 7, whatever episodes, none of that is up. There's no evidence of that
Steve
whatsoever.
Steve doesn't get any breaks in this whole thing. Like, this whole thing has been hard on Steve and on most of the husbands, except for Mr. Big, and I mean,
I would say it's exceptionally hard on Mr. Big.
Well, yes. As far as, like, how they're portrayed as husbands, it seemed like they portrayed Mr. Big as a pretty good husband for the last little while before he died. Seems like Steve has become an old man and can't hear.
Men do. They get older.
And is like, you know, man, like, watching Netflix and all this stuff, like, kind of a boring old man and kind of a, like, loon is how they're making him out to be in some cases. And then Harry is, I don't know what we think of Harry. He's just, I think he's a great dad, but I also think, like, I don't know what this whole thing with the argument is. It's all dumb. It's petty. I think that those things coexist. I think maybe a level of Miranda wants to think that she's doing this for a good reason, but I think you're probably more accurate at the heart of it. She's probably just trying to satisfy her selfish needs.
If anything, she's doing it as justification for, I tried.
Right.
Just to, even not for anybody else, but for her own mind. Like, I tried and it didn't work. People like to tell themselves that story.
Right, which she kind of goes on and says. Okay, so then we go to Carrie and Peter's date. And basically we find out that Peter is a widower as well. And, you know, Carrie's a widow. And they talk about how they lost their spouses. And then they have this awkward moment where they realize they need drinks. And then cut to them leaving the restaurant, clearly inebriated, laughing hysterically, and then throwing up all over the place. Together on the street. I laughed at that. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought, like, they drank and now they're, like, warmed up to each other and they're having a good time. But instead they drank too much and threw up. Then we go to the fundraiser, which is kind of a long scene with a lot going on. So there's the whole part of Harry following Charlotte around, noticing when she apologizes for other things and asking her why she can't apologize to him. And so now we kind of start to understand why she's more resistant to saying sorry and the apologies. Yeah, and Harry's, like, kind of tallying all her sorries and, like, why can't you just say it? Why can't you just say it? And she's like, because I have to say it all day long. As a woman, you have to apologize for everything. And that is true. We're taught to say sorry about everything. So I kind of get that. But, again, I still think the argument is petty and dumb, ultimately, in the kind of context of an entire marriage. And then that's kind of juxtaposed with this argument with LTW and her husband, where LTW is, like, misunderstanding what her husband says about her being bad at the fundraiser because she's not using the microphone, which, who doesn't know how to use a microphone, but whatever. And so they're getting a petty argument. And I think there's kind of this moment where the two couples sort of understand each other and, like, hey, here we both are having these petty arguments.
I don't know. I've never been a woman, so I can't say, like, whether or not women are taught to or feel the pressure to, like, apologize all the time. But I do feel like if that's the case, which it probably is, I feel like, I don't know, maybe my mind's different, maybe it's because I'm not a woman, but I feel like you compartmentalize that a little bit. Like, there's societal pressures I have that, you know, that happen to us or whatever, like, on the outside, but I feel like when you're in that relationship, like, specifically a marriage, you kind of have to be able to be, kind of put that, like, it's its own thing. Like, I don't feel like because the world tells you have to apologize, that means, like, I feel like she's kind of digging her heels in a little bit with that, on that side, and not having the necessary conversation with her husband. I'm not saying she needs to apologize because her husband's asking for it. I'm just saying I think that the thing behind the thing, right, they're not talking about that. And that's the part that frustrates me, is it feels like both of them are being on their side and, like, digging their heels in. And I get, like, we all do that. And we're all in the moment, like, this is the thing we do. We kind of get defensive or want to be right. And, but separated from that, right? Like, that's the frustration with that.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Jazz and I have had this conversation a few times throughout the series. And basically, we feel kind of like they're taking all these hot topics or all these things that are sort of like trending right now, and they're like getting the bullet points, right? Like, okay, we've talked about non-binary. We've talked about, you know, in the context of Che and in the context of Rock. We've talked about how hard it is for women to age in this world. And, like, we've had kind of different, like, hot topic conversations. Mm-hmm. I feel like this could kind of be, like, another hot topic thing that they're just, like the whole book that came out, like Girls Stop Apologizing or whatever. That's a thing that we've all become aware of now as a society, is like women are conditioned to apologize for everything and things that they don't need to apologize for. And they're kind of using this like writing thing as in the show as like a excuse to bring up that subject. Mm-hmm. You know, or even the cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation conversation from last episode. Like, mm-hmm. It's kind of like checking the boxes. And I feel like, on one hand, like, women shouldn't feel like they have to apologize all day long. And I think I noticed through, like, the second and third watch-throughs how many times they did have Charlotte and other women apologizing unnecessarily for things. And so I think they were just trying to make that a point. But I also feel like you're right in that that's not what the whole story is. Like, the whole story isn't just, like, Charlotte being a woman in the world and feeling like she has to apologize. It's also, like, her important relationship with her husband. And, like, if there's anyone to apologize to or to preserve the relationship, even if you don't feel like it's a situation where you should or need to apologize, like, maybe it's necessary to, like, soften up in that situation. You know what I mean? Just to, like...
Yeah, and I don't mean to put it all, like, on Charlotte either. I think that when she comes out and actually says, you know, I'm tired of however she said it, like, women have to apologize for everything all the time, like, that should be kind of a flag for her husband to be like, well, this isn't all about me. This isn't all about tennis. Like, I should probably ask better questions to see exactly what's going on here.
Yeah. Or, like, be open to letting it go himself, too. You know? Like, either side should kind of be open to, like, letting it go, I feel like.
Letting go the request for the apology, but not, like, letting the conversation not happen. Because I still think the conversation needs to happen.
No, I just mean, like, this whole, like, thing about being right on either side. You know, like, Charlotte should be open to letting go of, like, maybe she doesn't need to apologize because she's playing tennis, and that's what you do when you're playing tennis, but, like, maybe she should let go of the rightness in that and just be like, I'm sorry that I knocked you over, and just preserve the relationship. Or maybe Harry should let go of needing to hear sorry and just let go of the argument, you know? I just feel like ultimately it's kind of a petty argument, but I also get, like, they're using it as a device to bring up this subject, I think. What?
It's funny to hear you give advice about letting go of arguments, that's all.
Don't. Just don't.
Oh, babies. Oh,
I am great at everything.
Oh, babies. Yeah, mommy likes to argue, yeah.
If you're listening and not watching, my husband is now making out with our dog on camera.
My bitches.
fully.
Love you, lady. Okay, down.
This is it. This is my life.
Down.
So that's part of what's going on at the fundraiser. Then we've got Miranda having the conversation with Carrie about how her sex life is dead with Steve. And I do kind of feel like once this part came up, I did kind of feel like, okay, like Miranda was looking for proof to say this. I think she's really focused on Che. And then especially when she sees Che, it's like, bye Carrie, bye everybody else. She just goes straight to Che. And so I feel like Miranda, it wasn't good. Like, whatever happened with this sex thing with Steve wasn't great, but it literally lasted 30 seconds. So to me, it wasn't like a full shot. I think that Miranda was just kind of like, it's not working. I have proof, lawyered, you know? And then she sees Che and it's like, okay, maybe she feels more justified or something in going up and trying to have like another conversation. And then there's sort of a awkwardness. Che's caught up in a conversation. Miranda gives that 5 seconds as well and gets insecure because Che doesn't come running over to her either. And then when they finally do kind of meet up, she's a little standoffish and they're having a conversation. Do you want to fill in any blanks or
No.
They're having a conversation. Miranda asks, like, look, I DM'd you. It's been 3 months. Che's excuse is they smoke a lot of weed. I don't know. Maybe I've not smoked enough weed for this.
Part of the excuse. And the lots of DMs.
Yeah. They get a lot of DMs in volume. So, I don't know. To me, that feels kind of like an annoying excuse. Like, if you're into somebody, you're looking for their name in your stuff. You're on, like, high alert. Like, Miranda's on high alert for Che. Like, Miranda's clearly more into Che than Che is to Miranda, I think.
I don't know if that's true. Well, maybe.
I need more
at this
information.
point. I feel like it's... No, I think maybe I'm thinking of something else. I'm just going to be quiet.
Are you skipping ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Skip ahead.
Don't blame me. Blame Jasmine.
Well, sorry, Jazz. This is all your fault.
Get better, Jazz.
Yeah, so there's kind of that whole thing. I was just annoyed. I feel annoyed and triggered by the idea that, like, you could really care about somebody, you could send them a message, and then they just ignore you for months, and then all of a sudden they can just be like, oh, like, perfectly crafted excuse that's supposed to excuse me from this, and then also I want to, like, get naked with you, and it's just okay all of a sudden.
Well, I feel like this might be a little bit. DM. Is that on Instagram?
Instagram.
Can't you see when somebody's read it?
Yes.
Like, how does that part
I think you can turn that off, though.
Oh.
You might be able to turn that off. Or maybe I'm...
But in either case, if you turn it off, then as far as Miranda knows, she was never read. So, like, that's different than, like, if somebody read it and then didn't get back to you in 3 months.
Like left on read?
Yeah, like if I saw something and I was, there's other ways to get around that, but I feel like that maybe adds a little bit of credibility to Che's, like, reasoning.
I just feel like seeing this whole thing through my own filters, and I feel like if I'm really into somebody, I'm going to, like, even if it's in a friendship context too, like, it doesn't have to be, like, romantic. It could just be that I'm, like, really excited about a person in general.
Well, I think that's
life.
the difference.
I'm looking for their name. Like,
I think Miranda is very Che-centric, and Che's got other shit going on.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing whatever they're doing, and, Miranda feels like as a part of that, like, has a piece of that, but not all the eggs in that basket.
I think you're right. I think that's part of why Miranda's attracted to Che, is because Miranda has always been, like, a career woman and a woman that is independent in different ways and able to, like, do all these different things in life. And I think that she feels stuck and bored in the life that she's in, and that's why she went back to school, and that's why she's attracted to Che, and that's why she's like she's looking at Che because Che represents all these things that she wants in her life. New adventure, kind of like wild and crazy sex, and, career that's taking off. I think that that's what attracts her to Che.
Possibly. That makes sense.
But I don't know. I love Miranda so much that I feel like watching Miranda desperately chase Che is, like, frustrating. Like, I feel like Miranda's too good to be desperately chasing anybody. So, I don't know. I kind of want to see where her little journey goes after this because it's going to be interesting. Also happening at the fundraiser, Carrie sees her date that threw up, Peter.
The sex writer?
She's trying to, like... Yes, Carrie the sex writer. She's trying to kind of like sneak out, and there's this whole comical thing where Anthony's trying to like stake everything out so that she can get out without Peter seeing her, and then Charlotte totally disrupts this whole plan and is like, wait, your thing for the fundraiser hasn't come up yet, and she gets called up and she's clearly uncomfortable standing up there and basically getting auctioned off like the One Tree Hill boy toy auction in front of everybody. They're calling her a sex writer, a date with a sex writer, and she's just awkwardly standing there like, it's supposed to be just lunch. I'm like, oh, I'm really, nobody's wanting this, everybody's married. Like, and then the guy, Peter, bids on the date. And they have like a cute little moment outside after that. And it looks like they're gonna have a second date. So maybe there's a little hope for her. I don't know that it's going to go very far, but I think she's trying. I think she's struggling right now with life.
I mean, of course she's struggling. Her husband just died. It's just stupid. Like, leave the lady alone. Like, I don't feel like she's struggling, like, outside of that part. Like, that's, right, there's that struggle. But I feel like there's unnecessary struggles being put on, like, other things. Like, whoever the producer is or whatever, like, leave me alone. Like, I don't need to go on a date. Like, I don't think she needs to feel, I don't feel like she needs to feel the pressure to do anything other than, like, continue to do the thing she wants to do. Like, that stuff's just gonna, I don't know, it frustrates me.
Yeah.
People are putting these demands. Like, why the hell would you even auction her? Other than the fact that you're, like, desperate and you're looking for something to sell, but know your demographic. Like, who's gonna want a lunch date? Like, what do you even talk about? What is that? What is the whole point of a lunch date?
It's a children's fundraiser for a school, right? So why are we auctioning off a date with a sex writer?
But like, I just don't even understand. Like, what is she? Like, have her sell something, or you know what I mean? Have her give a service. Like, sit down, you and your wife, like,
writing
or whoever,
workshop
with
or something.
having therapy or something, a relationship counseling or something. Like, other than just, hey, here's lunch with sex writer.
Yeah.
For the kids. For the kids.
For the kids. That's true. Well, what would have been a good idea is to have like a writing workshop with a writer or something like that. Like, that's more appropriate, I think. But,
anything. Yeah. It's just so ambiguous.
I mean, let's
just throw her up there.
Obviously, they're writing this in to create the tension, to create like something in the story for her. But like, yeah, it's not well thought out. And earlier we did have the conversation at lunch where Charlotte said that there was a wave of divorces, and she thought maybe one of those dads could be interested in Carrie. So maybe that's what they were thinking. Is like, oh, we'll put her for this lunch date, and maybe one of the dads will pick it up. But still,
what is a lunch date? Like, that's the most awkward thing in the world.
Not sex
I'm going to
date.
pay $1,000 to take this woman out to lunch, and like,
it does. It feels prostitute-y.
Hi.
Che tells Miranda at the fundraiser that they want to take Miranda somewhere and get her naked, basically. And then we go and we see that they do take Miranda somewhere and get her naked. And there are boobs, there's sex, there's very heavy panting. Weed, apparently, again. Because everywhere Che goes, it's like that Peanuts character. There's just like a cloud of like weed
I don't think the
around
Peanuts
Che.
character does weed. I think he's dirty.
No, but I'm saying it's the same image that Che walks around in their own like cloud of weed.
Could have went with like Cheech or Chong, but you went with Peanuts. Nice.
Peanuts, because that's what the image I'm imagining is the little like cloud around the person.
Okay.
It's a good one,
yeah.
I think. So there's kind of this whole, and I guess the implication is they get to have sex again. They have great sex together. Miranda says, I love you. Che says, you love you with me. Also, I'm good at sex. Also, the weed. So I guess the whole point is that they get to sleep together again. I was a little bit frustrated and confused. I get what's happening. I just was a little frustrated and confused because to me, like, that whole conversation at the fundraiser was not enough for it to be just like, okay, we're just going to be fine and then sleep together. I would still be kind of like standoffish with the person if I felt strongly towards them and they had been ignoring me for 3 months in my mind. I don't care what your explanation is for it. I just feel like I'm not going to, like, you're not going to immediately get me into bed with you by just, like, giving me some excuse and then being like, but also I want to be naked with you. Okay. Last 3 months didn't matter at all.
I agree with you. I think that makes complete sense. I just know that not all women are going to go through the same thought process. Especially one that has literally built their life around this one fantasy. When the window opens for the thing you think you want and you don't have any other things like going on, like you jump. Like she's desperate for whatever it is, love, affection, adventure, like all that stuff. So you just have to crack the window and she'll jump right through. People have slept with people for a lot less, like with worse explanations. It's not a big leap for me. It's frustrating, yes.
Desperate for the cooch.
But I mean, if you're looking for a catchphrase, I guess.
I just feel like it's so right there. All right, she's desperate for the cooch.
It doesn't necessarily, sorry, not all people think clearly when...
I mean, you're probably right.
Maybe
I'm
right.
thinking like from this outside, more logical perspective, and maybe when you're in your feelings so hard like that, you're just in your feelings. And you're just like, I'm gonna run towards the thing when the window opens. I get that. So we got a final scene. We've got Carrie coming home and getting a text from Peter about their second date. And she kind of has like this little happy moment. And it says, and just like that, I found my little sliver of hope or something like that. Or I found a little bit of hope. And that's the end of the episode. So it looks like we've got another date with Peter in the future. So now, honey...
No, that's it. We're done.
We move on to the final segments of the show.
No, we're done.
We have to talk about the outfits. Now, I'm
They're
not going to go
dumb.
through every outfit, but I will go through and find, my favorite. I did think the first outfit, when Carrie goes to see the publisher, looks like the Joker. Are you laughing at that?
No, I'm laughing that you literally just told me I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to pick my favorite. And you said the first one.
Well, I'm trying to remember what I think I know what my favorite one is. Yeah, I think my favorite from this one is Carrie's outfit when she goes to see the publisher the second time. When the publisher says they have free espressos. And she has this coral shirt dress that's kind of loosey-goosey and flowy. And then she has like a cross-body sort of ivory bag with fringe. And then she's wearing the black shoes from, I believe it's movie number 1. I don't know, it could be movie number 2.
I knew that's where they were from.
Like gladiator style looking heels that are black. I just like the whole look on her. I like when her hair's down. I like the flowy. It worked for me. Yes. Did you have a favorite outfit, honey? Did you notice any outfits?
My favorite outfit is the one that's going to get Jasmine healthy so that I don't have to do this again.
That's a good one. I didn't expect you to like pay attention to outfits or care about them. So, I mean, was Steve wearing anything you particularly liked?
No, I can't say that he was. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, that's okay. So we do outfits, and then we did outfits.
And then?
We do favorite moment. Do you have a favorite moment in the episode?
No. Yeah, when it ended.
My favorite moment was the guy screaming in the window, "We have a toddler!"
It was annoying.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Because people with children are obnoxious.
I'm trying to think
In
what
general.
my favorite moment was. I like that Charlotte ran Harry's ass over in tennis. The whole tennis thing was very non-athletic. But I like that she ran his ass over.
Okay, thank you, honey. Now, finally, the last thing
And
is...
made the play.
And made the play. She came in clutch. Charlotte's clutch. The final segment is predictions of what's going to happen beyond this point?
I don't know.
I think we have another date with Peter coming. Because otherwise, why did they do this second date thing? And
I hope they don't.
I don't know. I mean,
I just don't like the idea of her.
Unless they're just going to be like, okay, there's another date, and then we're just going to assume that they did it, but it didn't work out, and they just move on, and we never hear from that like whole storyline. I'm just thinking.
I think the obvious thing is, well, what does Miranda do?
Yeah.
Right. What does she do?
That's always our prediction at the end.
You know, well, now that it's escalated, I guess with Che a little bit more, you can say, right? Or it's like, where does that leave Steve? Like, how does that even play out? You know, how do the friends react to that? How does Charlotte and, you know, Carrie react to that? How does Miranda, like, take their reaction, right? I don't know, who knows if that's going to be good or welcoming or, hey, you do your thing. Like,
I think Miranda has been the big
I don't
story
think I have
this
predictions,
entire
I just
time.
have questions.
Like, this entire series, Miranda has been the big story. And I think every time we do predictions, we're like, what's going to happen with Miranda?
Well, it's because she's an idiot.
I disagree. I don't think she's an idiot, but I think she's in a tough spot, for sure. I think she's trying to figure it out, but she's very human and not doing it in a level-headed way.
She's stupid for being so smart.
Jasmine's going to be mad at you.
Well, she should have been here.
She's tired of hearing people hate on Miranda for trying to find her bliss, okay?
I'm not hating on Miranda for trying to find her bliss, if that's how you want to put it. I'm hating on Miranda for going outside of her marriage. Like, do things in the right order. Like,
so you think that before anything would have happened with Che, Miranda should have been like, I have feelings for Che. I'm going to go break up my 20-year marriage before I've ever, like, explored that or anything. I'm just going to go break up my marriage and then go explore Che.
yes.
Okay. I get that could feel like the right thing, but I also get why, as a human, people don't do that. People tend to, like, hedge their bets, I think is what I'm thinking of. So I think she's kind of like... And I don't know that she knew she was ready to leave Steve until after the first interaction with Che.
I mean, I understand, to an extent. You can understand, like, circumstances and being in a moment and a slip-up. But that's not what this is. Like, there's intentionality there in writing a message after the fact. There's intentionality in the way that she's, like, anxious about not getting a response for 3 months. There's intentionality about seeing Che on stage and running right up to him and being like, oh, there's, like, you put yourself consciously in bad places.
In all of those months, she couldn't have said anything to Steve about this in all those months. Is what you're saying. Like, I kind of get that thought, right? Like, even after, if it was the one kind of, like, in the moment thing that happened when they were drunk at Carrie's, right? Then there's been all these months. It's been, like, a lot of decisions that have
that's the frustration,
not considered Steve.
And I call it stupid and dumb, just kind of messing around, but that's the frustration. It's, you made a commitment to somebody, right? And whether you want to stay with that person or not, like, the commitment is to the whole person. Like, actually have conversation, actually address these things, like, say what you, like, are thinking and stuff. It's just frustrating. And maybe it's more frustrating for me because I'm the guy and I can relate more to Steve in this circumstance. But I mean, I can hear and I don't have a lisp, but
he doesn't have a lisp. He has an accent. He has an accent. I think you're very wise, and I thank you for being here with me as we fill in this episode without the beloved Jasmine Rose.
Yes, babies.
Nina is making
Say
her
hi, Nina.
final appearance.
Say hi.
She has to check in. She's in love with her father, so there's that. And we love you. And Lydia's over there sleeping, and the boy's over there. So that appears to be this episode. And you can find me at vegan.coach.kylie on Instagram. You can find me at vegancoachkylie.com. You can find Jasmine at jasmine.rose.doula on Instagram or jasminerosedoula.com. You can find Will You Be My Friend on YouTube, You can find us on Instagram at Will You Be My Friend Show. You can email us any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions at willyoubemyfriendshow@gmail.com. And you can find us on Spotify with the link in the description, or by searching Will You Be My Friend in quotes and finding us with the black background and the pink letters. Thanks for being here for episode 7. Do you want to tell people?
Don't find me.
He doesn't want
Just leave
people
me
to
alone.
find him. You can find him by
Stop.
looking at my Instagram and stalking
me
it
alone.
and finding him on there.
I don't want to hear
He
your
doesn't
input.
really want to talk about Sex in the City with anybody, so
I hope all of you don't like
he
anything
does
I
this
said.
because he loves me. He doesn't want to be trolled on.
I could
None of
care
those
less.
things. So anyway, thanks for listening to us. I will be back soon as we can, hopefully with Jazz again. If not, we might have another special guest. Unfortunately. Love you. Thank you. So, thanks for listening.